Hey, hey there. Welcome back to the Do It With Intention podcast. I'm your host, Mindy Totten, and today I have a really special treat for you. Today we're continuing our student success stories, and today we are welcoming onto the show Bodywork Project student Lisa Fahay. She is a brand spanking new body worker, and I can't wait to have you hear her experiences, what she has gone through, what she's going through now, and what her hopes for the future are. But before we get started, I want to jump in with everybody's favorite from the show, something that very few people know about us. So, Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mindy. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here too. So, what is it? What's one thing that very few people know about you? And then I'll share something too.
I I I I'm an improv comedy junkie.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Tell us
And
more.
it's a fairly new addiction. Um, I discovered it by happenstance because a dear friend was participating as a monologuist.
Mm,
So I went to support him,
okay.
and I'm watching this improv group hear his story, two stories that he told, and then riff off of those stories. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I didn't know what was happening. They'd never seen his stories before. They were absolutely hilarious and genius. And ever since then, I have just not been able to get enough.
Okay, so
Uh,
are you going or are you participating or
yeah,
both?
I've gone to every single one of their performances,
Okay.
and I've started taking classes.
Okay, what's the name of the troupe or the group so we can
So the troupe is Yes and Company.
uh-huh.
So one of the tenets of improv is that you're dancing with a partner, and your partner will offer something. You take it as if to say, yes, yes, my hair is on fire.
Right, yes,
And
and then the next
and
thing.
I happen to have a fire hydrant hair dryer.
I love it.
So
Okay, and that's up in
yeah,
Freeport, Maine, right?
I in Freeport and Portland,
In
Maine.
Portland, Maine. Okay, we're going
Yeah,
to
but
put
there are
links.
troops all over the country that just pop up.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm independent to a fault. So this is you have to partner,
Yeah, you have to be
and
part
you
of a
have
group
to be part
energy.
of it, and you have to just run with it. And it's very
Oh, I
outside
love that. I love that. We'll put the
absurd.
links for sure
Oh yeah.
into the show notes and give a
Yeah.
little love out main way. I think that's fantastic. As you know, you've listened to the podcast for a while. I'm running out of things that very few people know about me, but my husband reminded me of something this morning
Fun.
when I said, "Okay, what am I going to say today on today's
That's
podcast?"
right.
Way back in college, 100 years ago, I had my own radio show in college. It was called Midday with Mindy. It was like 15 minutes long. Very few people know about this. In Harrisonburg, Virginia, James Madison University. Go Dukes. And it was not very good at all. I mean, it was the NPR station. You know how a lot of colleges
Oh
have
yeah.
that. So it was
Yeah.
just a local version of the NPR station. But one thing that I had to read every day were the crop reports and like what cattle were selling for and this and that. And I crack up at that now because I wouldn't be
That's
able to even
amazing.
read a crop report today. This day and age, I don't even know what the terms mean anymore. But that is something that very few people know about
That
me.
is local flavor.
Midday with Mindy. But I
Day.
want to get started
Love
talking
it.
about you and your experience.
Sure.
So, the reason I invited Lisa onto the show is I know that you have a very similar experience of many body workers who listen to the show and who are just getting started
Hmm.
in their careers, in their, body work journey. I like that
Right.
term, but a lot of people have told me that that's a cheesy term. But I like the term, the journey, because we're all in different places on our journey. And you were just getting started. And so I wanted to talk with you and hopefully that you could share some things that will be helpful for others who are just getting started as well. So let's
Sure.
start off by hearing a little bit about your background. So this isn't your first rodeo, right? You didn't like grow up knowing that you always wanted to be a body worker?
I didn't. So one thing that is true is I have a lot of experience with children in a
Mm,
lot of different arenas, from art therapy to children's yoga to I've always been that Pied Piper,
hmm.
played that role very happily.
Yeah.
Um, in college, I thought that my destiny was going to be art therapy with a full-time practice, but I don't know. I kind of have served children and the environment, weaving in and out for most of my career.
What did
Um,
you study in college? Were you studying art therapy
art,
specifically?
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
and developmental disabilities. So I've worked with a lot of kids with special needs, and
Hmm.
it tapped into the creative side of me, which is something that, I need to have as part of my whatever work it
Hmm.
is to think and act creatively.
Okay.
Um, I discovered craniosacral therapy a little over 30 years ago
Oh,
by
wow.
happenstance. It was divine intervention. I had broken my tailbone skiing, and
Oh,
9 months later developed these debilitating headaches, which I had every day for 6 weeks till I finally went to my doctor and said, I'm at my wit's end.
yeah.
And he mentioned, well, maybe you should get some craniosacral therapy. I'd never heard the term.
Okay, I want to jump in just really quickly because how
Yeah.
amazing is that, everybody? First of all, that a doctor shared that with you 30 years ago because
He was a DO.
well, we all know like we're trying
Yes.
to get not just craniosacral therapy, but other modalities that maybe folks aren't as familiar with. And I just love, love, love that. And I tell this to body workers all the time, like there's plenty for everyone, right? I love when people refer
Mhm.
out and cross refer to other people. Like
Right.
sometimes, I practiced craniosacral therapy, so it was easy for me to think that that could solve everything for everyone. And I
Hmm.
think it's really important for everybody listening to hear Lisa's story and be like, oh, that's right. A DO
Hmm.
referred her to somebody else who might be able to help even more. And we can all do that with our practices. So that's fantastic. Okay. So the
I'm
DO
so
says go,
grateful he did. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you went to a craniosacral therapist and
Well, I got on a plane is what I did. I went right from his office to meet my then boyfriend across country where we were staying with friends, and my flight was canceled. I got put onto another airline. They said go sit in the back of the plane and just pick any seat. And I happened to sit next to a man who had a binder on his lap about craniosacral therapy.
now you're just making this up.
I every piece of this story
Gosh.
is 100% not exaggerated or made up.
Okay, so
And
you
I
did,
almost jumped in his lap,
right.
but then I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
I said, "Oh,
yeah.
I've been having these headaches," and then I just thought, no, let him be in peace. But when a skiing scene came on the movie, this was back when we all watched the same movie,
Right.
he was making small talk and asked me if I skied. And I said, oh, no, I broke my tailbone last winter. And he said, that's exactly why you're having headaches.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, no, no, I broke my tailbone. And that was 9 months ago. And
Right.
he said, try to get some craniosacral therapy. So I thought, okay, that's whatever.
Yeah, when multiple people give you the same guidance, that's like the universe trying to tap you on the shoulder. Yeah. Okay. So you got on the plane, then you went for craniosacral therapy.
Well, I got to my host's house
Uh-huh.
and I was telling the story, and my host friend said, oh, I've got a craniosacral appointment tomorrow. Would you like to take it?
Oh my gosh. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see my face. That is, you can go over to YouTube and watch the video where I'm like, wait a second. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's
100,
amazing.
100%. Went to the appointment the next day, got on the table, sitting there going, what's she doing?
Yeah, not doing anything.
I'm paying $80 for this. This is some San Francisco hogwash. But I woke up the next day without a headache for the first
Great,
time in 6 weeks.
great.
And the the kismet of that story, it's just, you can't make up a story like that. It just was so sequential and
Hmm.
affirming. I since have, received craniosacral work. My children have. Um, so it's always been in the back of my mind.
Hmm.
I've never had an experience like that, really, that something that's so, that was just so telling.
Hmm.
And for me, I felt. So I was getting to a point in my life where my marital status was changing, and I knew I needed to utilize my experience with kids. So at this point, I had been teaching children's yoga and learning the principles behind all that are just so brilliant.
Hmm.
And was working at a preschool and thought, you know what, maybe this is the time to do some value added work to the experience that I've had working
Hmm.
with children.
Hmm.
And so my first phone call was to the Upledger Institute,
Right.
where they guided me to the need for a license to touch.
Right.
So I did my research. There are a couple of schools in Maine that offer massage therapy programs. I chose the Down East School of Massage, which is up a mid-coast about an hour from me. They are enjoying their 50th year
Oh
in
gosh.
offering program. I think I was the 72nd class that they
Wow.
graduated.
Yeah, that's great.
So it's a
Okay,
school with a great
so I,
reputation.
I love hearing the background. I love hearing the story. And it leads just right into my next question, which I know listeners would love to hear. If you're willing to share, I don't want to, go too deep or anything, but I would love for you to share, if you're comfortable, what's your vision for your ideal practice? I know we talk about that inside the Bodywork Project, and you've done some work around that. So
Oh
where
yeah.
where have you landed on that?
Yeah, and I remember at the beginning of the program, and I found out about you from the Craniosacral podcast with Ryan Halford.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, he's so
So I
great.
was delighted at the end of that episode that you said, you would be willing to do a complimentary one-on-one kind of exploration call. So that
Hmm.
went right on my list. As I was still trying to finish school, we had a brief business module as part of our school.
Hmm.
Um, but I certainly didn't feel ready as I was finishing my studies to launch a practice. And when I discovered the Bodywork Project, it was just the right amount of structure,
Mm.
and it was like a framework, like a roadmap for how to get somewhere.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't expect to fall in love with body work, the massage part of the work, but I really did. I love it.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to envision, a practice where I can do both craniosacral work and the massage work.
With
Um,
kiddos or with.
for kiddos. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. So really, I've always been thinking of, the practice I would design would focus on babies and young children.
Hmm.
I've really fallen in love with working with tweens and teens. There is just something really precious about offering, someone's first touch,
Yeah, yeah. Safe
safe
touch.
touch.
Yeah,
Um, I can't describe it. It really moves me.
yeah.
And teenagers these days have so many more stressors than I feel I did.
That's for
And
sure.
the slouching and the cell phones and the
Right.
uh, backpacks that are impossibly heavy.
Well,
So I guess
yeah,
what I envision is doing both, is offering craniosacral therapy as a way to embrace families,
hmm,
children who, are maybe dysregulated or have a myriad of health issues, and doing it in a way where parents also feel supported.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's kind of two audiences. Um, I I have to get creative. I have to have creativity as part of that. So my business name is Swallowtail Wellbeing. So I've made some, swallow temporary tattoos, which will go to the children, and
They'll
they'll
love
get their
that.
own
They'll love that.
appointment reminder cards. So it's gonna I feel like it will be a twofold thing.
Mhm.
Um, Also working with teenagers. I felt when I started the bodywork program, I felt I all the questions popped out of my brain. I think I emailed them to you. Where do we start? How does one do this? How does one do that? And I hadn't read through the material, I hadn't read
Yeah.
the syllabus, so I didn't know. Of course you thought of all of that. Of course all of that is coming.
Well,
Somebody has a
I
plan.
I really appreciate you sharing your vision because it's something that many people, not even just necessarily people who are new to having their own practice, but many people, many body workers, they just never seem to make or take the time to really clarify what that vision looks like. And for everybody listening, it doesn't have to be perfect. If the vision is
Right.
going to change and evolve as we change and evolve, but it's so crucial to have a place that you're headed toward, like an image in your mind of what this practice might be able to look like. And I so appreciate you sharing, Lisa, also your experience with massage school, because that was my experience as well. That we basically had, I don't even know if we called it a module. It was like, an hour and a half one afternoon about business. And that's not to bust on any massage schools.
Of course.
If
They're
we
doing the best they can.
Sure. And if they included, what you really need to know, like for example, if they included the Bodywork Project, it would be another 6 weeks of school. And people
That's
don't
right.
really want to do that either. So
Right.
I think that where the problem comes up is when you're somebody like I was, who graduated from school and didn't have business experience. And I just thought I should be able to figure it out on my own. And I looked and looked, and there wasn't really any kind of program that resonated with me that, like I, they say that, what do they say? Invention is the necessity. What is it? Invention is the necessity of
I know where you're going with that.
problems or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't get the exact phrase, but basically the mother of invention. I think that's what it is. Necessity, something. You guys know who are listening know what I'm talking about. Where I didn't have that business support, and so I was like down the road when other people were asking me, I was like, let me create this. Let me put it in such a way that people can understand it, people can go at their own pace, they can come back to the material when they change and they grow and they evolve. And your experience isn't uniquely. So a lot of times people
Mm.
join and they're like, I want to know everything right now. And we're like, okay, great. Let's look at what we're going to be learning and then go through it, because it is something that takes some thought. It takes some intention, as I always say. It takes a while. I want to have everything done yesterday. I want it
Right.
figured out yesterday. And
Right.
that's not how life works. We need to sometimes give ourselves the same space and the same grace that we give our clients,
Mm, well
and
said.
to be able to just step back a little bit and be in a supportive group of other very special people trying to do the same things that we're trying to do, I have found can be really, really helpful. So thank you for sharing that vision, because I think that you helped a lot of people today figure out, okay, I need to have some kind of a vision like that as
Uh,
well. So did you
well,
ever, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's something really, really unique that you bring to the table. Um, in addition to being spectacularly organized and knowing
Ah,
how to run that out, I I would, this is my bodywork project,
your
um,
binder.
my
I
binder.
love it.
I couldn't wait for the Fridays when the new modules would come out with the questions.
Hmm.
I feel like what so many people who are drawn to to body work and to massage work and other modalities like that have this intuitive, passionate, empathetic, way about them.
Hmm. Big-hearted, I call it. Really big-hearted. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And what I was able to get out of the questions from each of the modules was a way that to tap into that love,
Hmm.
but in a very practical way with really practical questions that help to project in a business and marketing and with policies about your late policy, your what
Right.
if you need
Yeah.
to change your pricing. And so in a way that I feel like a couple times you would say, that doesn't feel yucky, but it feels authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're so uniquely poised to be offering this work because you have had such a practice
Right.
and you
Right.
know what works and you track what works. And the exercises are so, so fun. I think I'm going to go back and start again.
Yeah. Well,
Honestly,
that's really
because I'm
common
now on
too.
this
Yeah.
precipice of, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to put it out there.
Yeah. Open my doors. So now,
Yeah.
yeah, let me get a little more support and ground
Yep.
underneath my feet.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank
absolutely.
you. Thank you for those kind words. That is something I think is my superpower, is that as I share with everybody all the time, I'm a double Virgo rising, whatever that means.
Mm,
But it helps me, I can see big picture and
yeah,
then really, really easily, it's very clear to me how to cut it down into tinier and tinier
yes,
pieces so that it's easy to digest and you can, go through and actually get things done. Because I know, again, when I was looking, and this is, no shade on anyone else, I'm just sharing my experience. When I was looking, there were many online programs that helped with marketing or helped with selling or whatever, but they weren't necessarily geared toward body workers. And even
right.
if they were, the tactics and the strategies that were suggested were just things that I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like,
Yeah,
that feels gross. Like, I'm not
yeah,
going to call somebody 3 times a day to see if they want to come. Like, it didn't resonate with me, So I was like, there's got to be a different way to do this. There's got to be a genuine, as you're saying, authentic
hmm,
way to connect with people and to share this work, because this work is unique. It's not like you're selling a car. You're connecting with people, like you were talking about, working with entire family units, because
right.
nobody, particularly kiddos, they don't come by their issues and their stressors in a vacuum. It's their surroundings, and often the surroundings are the people. And so there's so many different facets and components. And something that I really love about the Bodywork Project, and you've been wonderful with this, Lisa, is I've created it in such a way that it's a small group.
Hmm.
So it's not like you get on a group call. Have you ever been on a group call and there's like postage stamp size faces of people and you're kind of looking and you're going through, and it's not like that. I wanted to create a place where people actually knew one another
Right.
and cared about one another and supported one another. And I was curious, do you sense that as part of, because you're always an excellent participant. What does that feel like to you?
That was going to be my next point that also you encourage people to send questions, in advance, and you always get to those questions. And your answers are tailored. No, I don't even want to say tailored because that sounds like a manufacturing, but your answers are legitimately um, about what resonates with what you know about that person.
Hmm.
So if there's, however many a dozen people on the call, and that's actually a lot, you you did this recently with me, where you brought your experience of what you know works and maybe doesn't work, and what you know of me in that case, and you said, in response to one of my ideas, and you put this very beautifully, you know what, I wouldn't do that, and here's why. And it was excellent advice, not
Hmm.
something I would have thought of. And yeah, in the background, and I don't think we've mentioned this as part of the project, we've got the technology that you have, you've introduced us participants to, that allows us to communicate with each other off time, off camera,
Right, right. The
and
the
and what have
online
you.
forum, yeah.
And that's invaluable. It's really invaluable. And I know you chime in, when you can, but it does give us a sense of knowing each other. We now know, kind of where we are in our practices, and we'll throw some cheerleading, language
Right,
in there, what
right.
have you. But that's, I feel like that's what I had in my class at massage school. We had an unusually tight group of classmates, but that we're all figuring it out, and
Yeah,
we're figuring it out together, and within the context of the project and each module, whether it's marketing or pricing, or
right, right,
having an open house or doing a speaking event.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't.
Oh, good.
It wouldn't be the same.
I'm glad to hear you say that because when I was looking for support, I was always a little leery of big groups because I was like, I
Mhm.
don't know, on social media, certainly these giant massage groups or whatever, you can get some good tips and stuff, but they tend, in my experience, they tend to drag you down. They tend to veer negative, oh, this
Mhm.
terrible client did this. And then everybody jumps on, oh, clients are terrible, blah, blah, blah. I wanted a place where it would be safe for someone to say, I had a really bad experience with a client today. Can I
Mhm.
tell you about it? And hear your thoughts. So it's not people piling on. It's more,
Oh
wow,
yeah.
that happened to me once too. I'm really sorry that happened to you. Have you tried this? Or maybe you could think about that, so that it's a much more positive
Mm.
experience. Because I think it's easy in our industry. Again, I don't want to generalize, but just again, my own personal experience, it can be easy. I know I worked at a spa when I first started out. It can be really easy to, go to the break room and just start bitching and moaning, and I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that to be a part of what I'm offering at all. I want there to be a community aspect, but I don't want to go down that road of rah, 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 So, okay, so I'm glad that that has been
Great
helpful
point.
for you as well. So, when this is really putting you on the spot, and maybe you don't know yet, but when are you thinking of opening your doors?
Well, I'm in the more of the kind of logistics
Yeah,
mode of getting the LLC
right.
and my website completed and up and running. Um, and I'm also trying to I'm trying to be really intentional about self-care this
Mm,
year,
good.
because I was lousy about it
It's
last
hard.
year.
It's hard when you're in school too, boy. Yeah.
I was in school, and I also moved out of my home of 30 years, and I
Mm,
really underestimated both of those things.
hmm.
Um, and taking on the craniosacral training too. That was, I was kind of doing that with my rear hand,
Yeah.
which was wonderful. It was all wonderful. I'm not sure I shared this with you. I discovered this past spring when I was at one of the pediatric craniosacral trainings that my state of Maine is actually exempt from needing a license to touch in order to practice cranial work.
Okay. All right.
So that was, at first, I just was in shock. Like, really, I went through all of that time and investment and stress and didn't need to. But I'm so glad. that I have that education, that I have that knowledge and all of that anatomy.
Mhm.
Um, but the combination of what I was trying to accomplish was just a lot physically and
Yeah,
emotionally.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm really trying to think a lot about self-care and not like, open my doors and want 15 clients a day
Right.
and
Yeah,
that
sure.
sort of thing. So
Well, that
I
is a huge,
appreciate that.
that's a huge shock to find that out after you've gone through school and stuff. And as you were saying that, Lisa, I was like, no, like you were in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. I mean, I think that practically speaking, you're absolutely right. There's, you need that foundation in anatomy. You need that foundation in healthy touch, all of those things. Like, could I have gotten it in a shorter time frame? But I think on another level, on an energetic level too, I think that in general, some kind of schooling like you experienced allows us to step in to that role of practitioner in a much more confident,
Mm,
wise, empowered way. If we just hung up a shingle, took one cranial class and hung up a shingle, like you're not you're a different person now than you were before you went to massage school. All
absolutely.
all of us are. So I love that you're not going to rush things and that you're going to sort of glide into them. I think that that is a mistake that a lot of newbie practitioners make, me included. Okay,
Hmm.
how fast can I get this up and going? And I did something that is, I look back and I go, oh boy, I don't know about that. But it seemed a good idea at the time, which was completely renovate. We had a carport, completely renovated it, made it into an office, a treatment room, a half bath, $30,000 later or something like that. I was like,
A
I
huge
really hope,
investment.
yeah, I really hope somebody
Yeah.
comes for this work that I want to do. So I
Right.
would recommend to a lot of people perhaps going a little bit slower, taking Lisa's route and just sort of dipping your toe in and seeing, okay, where, I mean, sometimes you can't do that. You got to pay the electric
Right.
bill. You got to jump
Right.
in and do it. Did you ever consider working for someone else or with someone else? Or did you know I know that you told me that you went to massage school because you wanted to do craniosacral.
Yes.
Yeah. So did you ever consider working for someone else or?
You know, I I didn't. And maybe that's my independence to a fault,
Mhm.
personality trait. I guess when I was teaching yoga, I really personalized the classes. Um, and the classes were very much a reflection of my creativity. I just had to pull that in. So I would make different props for mindfulness or breath work. I
Mhm.
made a really fun um, vegan leather fortune cookie
Mhm.
which you could take apart. The two ends had magnets in them so that it snapped together nicely. And, it would just have nice positive
Oh, that's
affirmations in
cute.
them. And it wasn't something I necessarily learned in my yoga training,
Right.
but just that's so much a part of my personality and the way that I approach things. And it made it more fun for me. The kids just really, really loved, that aspect of it. So I guess when I think about my pediatric aspect of the craniosacral practice, um, I can picture the space. I
Mhm.
can picture the mindfulness toys for the sibling that gets dragged to the appointments. I can, picture mom being able to go to the Nook and make a cup of tea. I just I can just feel what I want it to feel like and I'm what I want the experience to be. And
Mhm.
I don't imagine I am going to get that working for
Uh,
some.
Right, right.
So,
I think that's really important to know about yourself. As you're talking, Lisa, I'm like, you could have a whole business, which is body work and crafting. And you could have people come in and workshops and um
be a
you love that
dream.
dream of yours. I didn't I worked for someone else when I worked at a spa, which was about 9 months, I guess. And it was a similar to what you're talking about. Well, what I learned is like, I don't want to do it this way. I don't want to
Mhm.
do that way. I don't. So it was a really good learning experience.
Mhm.
The spa is no longer around. It's no longer in business. So it was really a positive thing for me. And it taught me 1000% I want to have my own practice. So if you're listening and you're just out of massage school and you're thinking, gosh, I'd like to have my own practice, but I'm not sure, should I get experience? There's really not a right answer. You don't have to work for someone else. You can absolutely make a go of it on your own if you get the proper support. You know, if you have on the bodywork side, if you have some kind of a mentor who's helping you
Yeah.
sharpen your skills and become a better therapist. On the business side, if you have some sort of support, whether that's a program like the Bodywork Project or some other program that you resonate with, it's critical if you're going out on your own to get that support. And if you want to work for someone else first, that's a great way to do it as well. What I would like to caution folks about is if you do choose to work with or for someone else in the beginning, keep having that clear vision of what you want your practice to look like and be guided by that vision because you don't want to wake up in 5 years and you're still working for this other person who you don't particularly enjoy and you don't enjoy your work because it's not the work that you really genuinely want to do. So that would be one caution that I would have. What advice do you have as we wrap up here, Lisa? If someone were to ask you, you know, what's your advice for somebody who's just starting out? You know, should I do the bodywork project? Should I not? Should I wait? Should I try something else? Like, what would your words of advice be? Your words of wisdom?
I I agree with the support. And here is this person, I am speaking as Miss Independent. I can do it all myself.
Mhm.
Um, there's just not a reason to. And the project is, like I said earlier, it's such a great roadmap. And you don't know, this is what one thing that I realized when I first, was able to sit with the syllabus and read ahead. You don't know what you don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And and in that kind of a situation, I think it would be really easy to make mistakes that might be hard to recover from.
Hmm.
Right. And so you encourage us to think about, the whole realm of everything from pricing to cancellation policy to marketing that feels true.
Hmm.
Um, and that those are tickets to success. And um, they're things that everybody should think about. I would not be, were it not for the Body Project, and Mindy didn't pay me to say this, folks, I wouldn't be ready. I wouldn't be ready to open my doors
Mm.
by a long shot. I think to your last question, I probably I probably would have had to go work for someone else.
Hmm.
Because I encourage us to do these exercises where we're thinking about what does resonate, what does feel authentic. Oh, I completely forgot about having a cancellation policy. So I
Right.
don't have to flub that up if if and when it inevitably comes up.
Yeah, yeah, which it will come up. So,
Well,
I hear you saying that support is key
it's invaluable.
when you're starting out. Yeah, I agree. And I wish I had had better support. I ended up working one-on-one with a couple of coaches, which was extremely expensive and worthwhile, of course, but that's way more expensive in general than a group program.
Mm.
And I don't know. I think I was kind of I don't think of myself as being, what did you say, wildly independent or whatever, but maybe I am a little bit. Maybe stubborn is the word. I don't know. But I was like, I don't know what I could really learn from other people in a group. We're all floundering together. And having run this program for, I don't know what it is now, 7, 8, 9 years, I absolutely know. Like, people inside the group help so much with, I mean, there's the support, part like,
Yes.
hey, yay, you're doing great. But also, hey, try this, or I went here, or you can learn so much more in a group than you can from one person, is my experience when I was trying to find stuff too. So as we finish up here, Lisa, you have your mouth open. Did you want to say something else? Did I cut you off?
It just that it also enables the tenor to be positive in that
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
And, that's intentional. But it happens because we're all lifting each other up.
Right, right.
Um,
And that's so beautiful, especially in this day and age, in our world, the way that it is. It's so important to connect with other human beings who
yes.
have your best interest at heart, who want you to succeed. That's something I'm really proud of with the Bodywork Project, is that there's not competition. People aren't
Right.
trying to pull one another down, and
Oh yeah.
I won't have that. And that was very intentional. I want a place where people genuinely cheer each other's successes, really are sincerely happy when good things happen to one another. And when things don't go so well, they're there for you as well. So, Lisa, I know that people who are listening to this may want to reach out to you and hear more about your experience. Is there, I know that you are completing your website now. Is the best way to reach you website or email? We're
Well,
recording this.
eventually website. I do have a Lisa at swallowtailwellbeing
.com,
.com
.net,
email address.
.com. Okay, we'll put that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd be open to for people to get in contact with you?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah,
good.
definitely.
Okay.
I'm open and friendly. Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, yeah, yes, and like you were saying at the
Good
beginning,
one.
yes,
Brought it
and
back.
brought it back
Yes.
around. Well, thank you
And
so, so much for joining
oh,
me
Mindy,
today. I
thank
think this is
you.
really, really helpful for people, and I so appreciate when body workers come on and share their experiences, and I really, really enjoyed talking with you today.
I appreciate it. It's a little humbling that I don't yet have the experience, but I have the experience of the Bodywork Project. And that
Well,
has been, yeah.
yeah, you have the experience that so many people listening are going through. So you're right exactly where you need to be.
And I highly recommend the podcast route too.
Hmm.
As I said, that's how I found out about you initially.
Hmm.
And I'm one thing I'm doing right now, it's not a podcast, but an audio book, is that I'm listening to Eckhart Tolle's book, The New Earth,
Oh, yeah.
which is not new, but Oprah has put it on her reading list for the second time, which
Yeah.
she has never done before.
Yeah.
So it's a lot about the ego, and it's kind of been helping me just realize that I've made these investments in myself and my knowledge, and it's time to get out of the ego and make it happen.
Yeah. Out of the head and into the heart.
Oh, I love that.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. And
You.
thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you would like to reach out to Lisa or to me, you can certainly do that. We are getting ready to enroll our next live round of the Bodywork Project, which will begin in late February. So if there's any questions that you have, we'll be happy to answer them. One way or another, though, I am so appreciative of everyone who listened today and joined me for this time. I think that you are doing beautiful work. I'm so proud of you. I'm so inspired by you. Keep putting your beautiful work out into the world and keep doing it with intention.